Indika is a third-person story-driven game set in alternative Russia at the turn of the 1900s, where religious visions clash with harsh realities. Indika tells the story of a young nun who sets off on a journey of self-discovery with the most unusual companion by her side, the devil himself. This game, of course, is rated M for mature, as it does contain blood and gore, nudity, sexual themes, including sexual abuse, strong language, and some violence. This game is available on PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X. Overall, I give this game an 8 out of 10, as I think it does what it sets out to do. It tells a beautiful and compelling story, and it blends different types of gameplay, graphics, and mechanics to draw the gamer through this unique and interesting world. This game is not for everyone, though, as many reviewers I've read online have complained of how short this story is and the lack of combat. Many felt the game ended feeling a little bit unfinished, and I'm guessing there's a reason for that. I'll talk about that here in a second. Some felt that given its price and technical requirements as nearly a AAA game requirement that it sets out for your machine, that it should have been longer, should have been bigger, should have been more interesting and more in-depth. This, to me, means that people were left wanting more, feeling like they liked what they actually played of the game. I think it's a good indication of the quality of the game. The gameplay, of course, is a mix of third-person story adventure with 2D pixel platformer. There are puzzle-solving elements. There is, of course, no combat in this game, but that doesn't mean that the game is without peril, as often the threat of falling or being chased and eaten by dogs are occasionally present. Although some reviews that I've read of this game feel like the game is a bit unfinished, like I said, the story about the game development may be just as compelling and interesting as the story the game itself tells. Following the outbreak of a Russian invasion of Ukraine, the developers from Oddmeter left Russia together to continue working on the game. Many of them opposed the war and the invasion of Russia into Ukraine, and so part of this opposition, perhaps to Russian totalitarianism, is what fueled the game's main critiques, many of which are lobbied against the Russian Orthodox Church. In an interview with Polygon, game developer Dmitry Svetlov discussed his feelings about the Russian Orthodox Church, saying that it was one of the weapons of Russian propaganda that gets used, as often even the church tells people to go to Ukraine and to die for their country. These criticisms of Russian orthodoxy and religion in general run throughout the game Indika, as it provides thoughtful insights and critiques of religion from the perspective of a nun who herself is struggling with what she believes. These critiques come in various forms as the main character's inner dialogue, a conversation with her conscience, perhaps with the devil himself, and interactions with other characters, though those are sparse. I will say, coming from a faith perspective, that I found myself curious about where this game was going, with its perspective on religion and faith, especially as you find yourself at different points getting throughout the game. You get points for collecting religious iconography, for collecting relics, for lighting candles, for praying. Even early on in the game, there's a place where the player is forced to do the meaningless task of fetching water, and we're told that obedience is part of a path to holiness. The voice questions this, however, saying, is useless labor the basis of spiritual development? And it says, obedience is important above fasting or prayers. This seems to be both a critique of useless fetch quests in games and the seemingly menial tasks often associated with certain expressions of religion, especially those that are monastic or ascetic. At one point, the main character is kidnapped and her captor tells her not to worry because everything happens according to God's plan. She responds by saying, "So was kidnapping me part of God's plan?" There are discussions throughout the game about sin and responsibility, and at one point, the main character questions whether or not animals can sin.
The dog deserved it. It's bad. It's sinful.
There are no sinners among dogs. Only humans can sin. Tempted by the devil. And that dog, its humans left, stopped feeding it. So it became a matter of survival.
Interesting. So what's the difference between a human and a dog? The thing you're blaming the devil for is as likely to happen to a human as it is to a dog. It gets angry when its food is taken away. It's ready to...
If, of course, they are not sinning because they're merely behaving based on their nature, then why is it sinful for a human to steal food if they're just acting on their human nature? It's a question worth pondering, and pondering is one of the things you do throughout this game. Interspersed throughout the game are loading screens with scripture on them that offer insightful fodder for the curiosities and ponderings ahead. These questions lead to even bigger ones towards the end of the game, and I don't want to spoil it, so I'm just going to leave it there. This game is as weird and unique and might not be for everyone, but if you give it a playthrough, I can almost guarantee that it will have an impact on you, and it will be a game that you are probably thinking about, along with the spiritual and philosophical questions that it brings up for years to come. As a pastor, I find the critiques the game provides of organized religion, especially it getting weaponized by empires, I think it's well thought out and very specific to the origins of its creators, and it doesn't really even getting into talking much about Jesus or the nature of his existence, or perhaps even touching on the existence of a healthy expression of religion, nearly as much as it critiques very specific view of the Russian Orthodox Church. In closing, I would say this game is definitely not for everyone, but it is just like other walking sim story games. If you like those and you want to give this a play, I think it's worth it checking out. It tells a compelling story from a unique perspective, and it's worth every minute of gameplay that the player gets to experience. What did you think of Indika? Did you play it? Did you like it? Did you hate it? I'd love to hear more about that in the comments below, and we will try to make more game reviews in the future. Let us know too if there's a game that you think you'd like us to review or get our perspective on. We are coming from a very unique perspective as gamers and pastors. That's not often out there. So what other games would you like to see us review, and what did you think of Indika?